Voidspark, Episode 8, Dawn. She was falling. Then she was not. Cassie stood in the black. No floor, no walls, no sky. The tearing sound still lived inside her skull, not fading, just sinking deeper. The dark was not empty. She still held Jade's hand. She could feel the fingers, the warmth. She squeezed. No response. Jade's hand was slack. She should not have been able to see any of this. That was wrong. She knew it was wrong, the way you know a floor is tilted before your body catches up. But Cassie could see. A sense of space that should not exist in a place meant to be nothing. She looked at Jade. Jade had not moved. Her eyes were open and aimed at something Cassie could not find. Jade. Nothing. "Jade, look at me." Then Cassie saw it. It surfaced the way a body surfaces in water, slow, then all at once. Her own shoulders pinned to the floor that was not a floor. Jade, kneeling on her chest, holding the knife. Not the Jade whose hand she held, a different Jade. The knife was steady in her grip. Her face. Cassie could not stop looking at the face. At ease, like this was normal, like she could have been making coffee. She knelt on Cassie's chest and held the knife, and her face said this was ordinary. Cassie's hand was there, pressed flat. All 5 fingers splayed, like it was being displayed for her. 5 of them. She stared at the pinky. The nail needed cutting. The other Cassie, the one pinned beneath Jade, did not move, did not struggle. Her body lay still. Jade raised the knife and slowly drew it back and forth across Cassie's pinky. Cassie watched. The other Cassie watched too. Neither of them made a sound. The pinky came free. It fell away and the blood began to pool, slow and dark, spreading across the ground. Cassie understood. She deserved this. She understood that now. She deserved to stand here forever and watch Jade take her apart, piece by piece, not screaming, not crying, just watching, the way you watch a fire in a fireplace. It was not a thought. It was an understanding. It was comforting. She let go of Jade's hand. Jade was in the black again. The pull was there, at the base of her neck. Sharper now, a fishhook sunk into the top of her spine. Then she saw it, herself, kneeling on Cassie, the knife in her hand, moving gently back and forth across the finger, and the blood, and the silence. She let go of Cassie's hand. She walked toward it. The hook at the base of her neck went slack. The knife was halfway through the pinky. She could see the white of bone through the blood. Her fingers settled into the grooves between the other fingers, and the knife moved between them like something shared. The cutting was easy now, effortless. 2 hands doing the work of one. The pinky came off clean. It was comforting.
Deck hit the void like a man thrown from a car. The dark swallowed direction. Panic hit him a second too late. By then the gun was already in his hand. Deck's mouth opened, but the words that came out were not his. He heard his own voice and knew that he was already losing pieces of himself. Now, where are those girls?
Eve was not ready to be here. She had the device. She had contingencies. What she did not have was control. They would be scattered, close. A new tear would not stretch far. She checked her wrist. The timer was running. She knew what Deck would be doing. She had to find the girls. Jade looked at the Cassie on the ground, watched her face. Nothing. Acceptance. Then she looked up. The real Cassie, standing in the void, watching. The expression on Cassie's face was the same. Not horror, not grief. A woman watching herself be destroyed and believing she deserved it. Jade screamed no. Not at the vision, not at the void. At Cassie. Jade knew that peace. It was the void's final lie, that you deserved this, that this was where you belonged. The comfort shattered. It broke like glass. The spark ignited at Eve's feet, and she saw them. The sparks. Deck's name. The dead eyes. The gray skin. Lights slid across their forms like current. For one impossible second she was not afraid of them. She missed home. Not the world as it had ended, the world before that, streets with weather, doors that opened that she did not need to close. So many had only seen a spark, and then nothing. She was still here, still breathing. They watched her, not moving, no bigger than a human. They could have been corpses. Her people were dying for centuries before they understood what was happening. The tears were everywhere at the end, and the weapons they had built were not enough. She wondered if they even knew what they were doing to the people they destroyed. She turned from them and ran. Jade ripped her hand away. She pushed back from the pool that had formed. The other Jade kept cutting. She turned. Cassie was standing 3 feet away, eyes open, seeing nothing. She was still watching. She was still agreeing. Jade grabbed her shoulders, shook her. She screamed, "Cassie, come back!" Nothing. Cassie's body rocked with the motion, but her eyes did not change. Jade held on. She did not know what else to do. Cassie heard her name. It came from far away, through the vision that still played behind her eyes. The comfort broke like glass. She did not move, but her hands unclenched.
Deck was moving, like being pulled down a hill. He couldn't stop. His hand would not open. The pieces that were him still kept trying. Then the boot was on his chest again, not letting the air out of his lungs.
Eve found Jade first. Jade's head snapped toward her, wild eyes, wet face. "She will not come back." Eve knelt beside them. She could see it in Cassie's face, the stillness that was not calm but surrender. Cassie felt Jade before she saw her. Arms, warmth. Then she opened her eyes and the green cut through the blackness. Jade was wrapped around her, holding her hand. 5 fingers around 4. It was still there, behind her eyes. The pinky attached, then not. And the woman holding her had the knife. She almost pulled away. Almost.
Deck saw their silhouettes emerge from the darkness. He felt his grip tighten. It was happening again. He was starting to aim. Every movement allowed more air out.
Jade saw Deck coming. She felt 1 second of relief before Deck raised his gun and pointed it at them. Eve saw the steel in Deck's hand the instant he stepped into range. She saw his grip tighten. Eve pulled the device from her belt. Blue light spilled between her fingers as she activated it. The device hummed. 7. It was not enough. She aimed below him, at the dark beneath his feet. Deck hung there for a moment. His eyes went wide. The gun was still in his hand, and then it was not. Eve heard him hit the concrete. She grabbed Cassie and Jade and threw them through. She looked just before she jumped through and saw them watching. She thought there was a smile on their faces.
Deck was on his back. His hand was empty. He noticed that first. Then the concrete. Then the ceiling. Ordinary. Cassie landed 3 feet from him. He could see Jade crumpled, one arm folded under her. Deck could hear them breathing. That was enough for now. He rolled onto his side and watched Eve step through the tear. She did not fall. She came through the way you step off a curb, already reaching for the device at her belt, already turning, already aiming. The blue light covered her hand. She raised it toward the opening, and the edges began to seal, the darkness pulling inward, closing the way skin closes over a wound. An arm came through. Gray. Wrong. It bent in too many places. Deck's hand moved to his jacket. For an instant the world went black, the 2 girls hanging, the green eyes, the missing pinky, then the homeless shelter, the woman, the baby. His fingers stopped. They would not close on the grip. The spark ignited from the gray hand and hit Cassie. She did not scream. Her eyes found Jade. Cassie lifted in the air. Her hands reached for nothing. It was the reach of someone being taken from the only people she had left. Deck lunged at her, his knee buckling. He had her. For 1 second he had her. He could feel her pulse hammering against his palm. Then the arm pulled.
Jade was there. Cassie grabbed her jacket at the shoulder. It slid through Cassie's hand like water. Another second and she'd be gone. Jade jumped. She had her. Cassie brought her other hand up. Jade reached and caught it. It held. She didn't hear Deck get up. She only felt him grab onto Cassie and pull with her.
Deck heard the hum. Then the room lit up like someone dropped a flashbang 2 feet from him. He watched as the arm was severed and fell. It dissolved before it hit the floor. The hole closed behind it. A sound like cloth tearing in reverse, and then nothing. Jade fell into his arms, and Cassie toppled on top of them. The building was just a building. Cassie pushed herself up off Deck, and Jade got up with her. She looked at Deck as he pushed himself up. "Thanks." "No problem." Jade was looking at her when she looked back. "Hey," Cassie said. "Hey, Cassie."
Eve held on to the device. It was warm against her skin. She looked at the wrist timer. Green. They were out. All 4 of them. Clean exits were rare. Her eyes went to the tear that was not a tear anymore. Deck knew about some of the others. She knew about dozens more. Deck had not drawn his gun since his Void experience. Hers was still in her pocket. Jade looked at Eve. She was staring at the place where the tear had been, holding the device, not returning it to her belt. Jade walked over and looked at the device. "Your people made that, and it got them killed." "Yes," Eve said. The rest didn't matter anymore. She took Eve's arm and brought her to Cassie and Deck. She had Eve's hand by the time they reached the door. Deck watched Jade go over to Eve. He went for the cigarettes. Cassie was standing next to him. It hit him, out of nowhere. He was number 44. He knew his old life was over. Now it was 2 kids and a woman from a dead world. A void, a spark, and the things he understood. Deck glanced at Eve. "How long have you been here?" 19 years. "You don't look much past 25. "I am 107 years old." Deck staggered again. Cassie saw Eve place the device back on her belt. "The alleyway was open long before you started watching it, Deck." They walked out into the early light. Eclipsis looked like any other city at dawn. Deck's car was half a block up. Eve walked beside him. She had not let go of Jade's hand until Jade let go of hers, and then she had folded her arms across her chest and kept walking. Deck looked down at Cassie's hand. "What's with the finger?" Cassie heard Jade laugh. Cassie just shook her head and smiled. She fell behind with Jade, not by much, a few steps. Enough. They walked like that for a while. It could have been longer. "It was the same," Jade said. "What we saw." "I know." "And it felt—" "I know." Jade looked at her. Cassie looked back. There was nothing to say about it that their faces were not already saying. 2 people who had been shown the worst thing and found it comforting and would never be able to explain that to anyone else. Jade squeezed her hand. The grip was wrong. It held. "Sun equals safe," Jade said. She looked up at the gray sky and the thin light bleeding through it. "Close enough," Cassie said. They reached the car. Deck was already behind the wheel. Eve stood by the passenger door, waiting. Jade opened the back door. Cassie got in first. Jade slid in beside her. Eve took the front. Nobody spoke. Deck started the engine. Eve leaned her head against the window. The glass was cold. She watched the city pass. Eclipsis in the early light. The towers going up so high you lost them in the haze. The morning was warm. 6 charges. The math did not work. It had never worked. But the math had never included other people. She knew when it changed. When she watched a broken girl leap, a 4-fingered girl reach, and a cop without a gun jump for both of them. The pull she felt was not toward the void, it was toward them. It was comforting. She was getting used to it. That is the first thing that goes right with you. The end of Episode 8. The end of Voidspark Series 1.